In Western styles, music comprises melody and harmony, and while you can certainly have a melody by itself, there's a lot of context that a harmony provides that can influence the emotional impact of that melody, and in this video we're going to look at how that might work. Most of us feel some sort of emotional response when we listen to music, well, good music anyway. Composers for films and video games know this and will write music in such a way as to elicit a particular response, and hopefully one that aligns with the underlying emotional content of the scene or story. As listeners, we often gravitate towards good melodies, or things that we can hum along with. However, it's frequently the harmony that does the heavy lifting in terms of emotional context. And to demonstrate this, we're going to look at the Ballad of the Windfish from Link's Awakening. The premise of this game is that following the defeat of Ganon in Hyrule, Link sails to a distant land to train his hero abilities further. His training complete, he sets sail back for Hyrule, but is thrown off course by a storm at sea. He awakens on Koholint Island, having been nursed back to health by Marin and her father Terran. Link gathers his sword and shield and prepares to leave the island, but is informed by a mysterious owl that he cannot. A giant egg is perched atop the highest mountain, and inside sleeps a creature called the Windfish. Until the Windfish is awakened, Link cannot leave Koholint Island. The owl tasks Link with obtaining 8 instruments of the sirens to awaken the Windfish. The Ballad of the Windfish is a song needed to wake up the Windfish, and the song gets more developed with each new instrument that Link finds. The melody on its own sounds like this, and as you listen, see if you think it sounds more major or more minor. For me, I can hear this a few different ways, all in major, all in minor, or maybe switching between the two as it progresses. To illustrate this, listen to it with a tonic drone. With 2 sharps, our tonic could be D if it's major or B if it's minor. So let's listen to a D drone first. Maybe you could feel this melody fitting more into the major mode that way? Maybe not. Let's try it with a B drone. Some things that you may have taken for granted as major might sound minor now, and that's something about this melody that's exciting to me. Depending on where you hear the tonic pitch, the entire character of the tune might change. So is this song supposed to evoke happiness and optimism, or sadness and despair? We'll look at exactly how the Ballad of the Windfish navigates this with all the instruments in a minute, but as an exercise, I made 2 possible harmonizations for this tune. One emphasizing the major mode, and the other emphasizing the minor mode. In major, we start with an auxiliary subdominant, supporting the filled-in third of the melody, and let the B act as an added sixth above tonic. The second phrase uses the common 4-5-1 progression to the first cadence. The The second half of the melody moves through 4 and 2 as predominants before cadencing again with 5-1. The C natural pivots us with a 5-7 of 4, then wraps up with a 7 diminished 7 plagal substitution. It sounds like this. Obviously, there are some chords in there that are not major, but overall it supports D major, and the harmony and dissonances all move and resolve towards that tonal goal. Now look at the harmonization in minor. Unlike the other one, we start with a tonic chord, moving to a minor 5 half cadence. The next phrase descends through a major 6 to another half cadence, this one complete with a leading tone. I revoiced it here just to keep things interesting. The second phrase descends through 6, 4, and 2 before reaching another minor 5. The modal borrowing of C natural is supported by this Phrygian diminished 5, then a stepwise bass descent through 4, 6 to 5, then back to tonic. Like the other harmonization, it does include some chords that aren't all minor, but overall supports B minor. Notice that what was a B flat in the major version is rewritten as an A sharp in this version. Same pitch, but serving a different function. So, depending on the harmony, this melody can take on pretty different emotional characteristics. We'll talk about why that might matter for the story in a minute, but now let's look at how the Ballad of the Windfish actually is harmonized in the game. And yes, the names of the instruments in the game don't super match up with all the sound samples, but that's what we've got, although it wouldn't have been hard to just call it a full moon violin. Anyway. Most of our harmonic information can be gleaned from the organ part, which consistently outlines a triad. We can immediately see and hear that the real version initially settles into the D major option, but rather than the more conventional 1-4 motion that I used in my major harmonization, this alternates D major with E minor, the less common 1-2 motion. The harp part reflects the same chord progression as the organ, but with the added 7th of each chord, a C sharp to make a D major major 7, and a D to make an E minor minor 7. The marimba plays the same notes, but fills in the subdivisions. The bell part, which does not follow the same pattern of changing every 2 bars, is actually a diminution of the harmonic rhythm, reflecting the shift from a D chord to an E chord within every measure. When the cello takes over the second half of the tune, there is a clear shift to a B minor tonality. The organ now shifts between B minor and E minor, with the common B as a pedal bass note. The harp and marimba both follow this chord progression as well, leaving behind the added 7th of the previous section. The bell also changes to match the harmonic rhythm of the other instruments, but holds both the B and D over from chord to chord, providing the minor 7th of the E minor chord. This second section uses more chromaticism in the melody, and so the harmony is a little more involved than in the first section as well. With the introduction of the C natural, the instruments outline an A minor chord, which would be a minor 7 in B minor or a minor 5 in D major, but more likely represents a brief tonicization of the subdominant here, E minor. This is reinforced by the following measure, which outlines a D-sharp fully diminished 7 chord, which would be the leading tone chord in E minor. D-sharp diminished 7 typically has a strong resolution tendency towards E minor, but here it's averted to G major instead. Now for the A-sharp or B-flat moment. In my major harmony version, we used a B-flat to support a 7 diminished 7 motion to the tonic D major. In my minor version, we use an A-sharp to support a dominant 5-1 motion. So, do we have clarity about which one it is in the final version? Sort of. The song resolves to D major, and the harp actually has all the notes of the C-sharp fully diminished 7th chord, which are also present if you combine the bell and organ parts. However, the melodic cadence is relatively weak, ending on the chordal 3rd. Conventionally, the 7th of a diminished 7th chord resolves down, especially in an exposed voice, but when it happens here in the melody, it's avoided with another diminished 7th leap away. Overall, though, I think we can safely say that this melody has two sections, the first in major and the second in minor, with the chromatic ambiguity around the cadence serving to transition back to major. We don't hear this version in its entirety until at least midway through the game, though, which means that the first several times this song happens in Link's Awakening, there is still that ambiguity of whether it sits in major or minor. What's the narrative impact of using such a tune? When something seems to evoke emotions of happiness and regret simultaneously, we tend to label it bittersweet, and that term fits perfectly for the story of Link's Awakening. And at this point, there will be spoilers for the end of the game. IGN ranked this game 40th best game of all time, so go play it, go watch it, or go experience it for yourself somehow. You won't be disappointed. As mentioned, Link wakes up on Koholint Island and is told he cannot escape until he wakes the windfish asleep in the egg on the mountaintop. The reason he cannot leave is that the entire island and all its inhabitants are manifestations of the windfish's dreaming. The monsters that have appeared around the island are the result of a nightmare that has crept into its dreams. The game presents a dilemma. The windfish wants to wake up from this terrible nightmare, and Link wants to return to Hyrule, but all the people who have helped Link on the island that he has gotten to know will cease to exist when the dream ends, if indeed they can be considered to have ever truly existed at all. But putting metaphysical musings about the nature of reality aside, it is a very bittersweet story. The only way for our hero to save the day is to doom a whole people who, from their perspective, are very much real, to obscurity. With this knowledge, hearing Marin sing the Ballad of the Windfish carries a much heavier emotional impact. The first few times we hear the melody, it does sound sad. It's the song of something beautiful having to come to an end. By the end of the game, we have the harmony providing more context. The drum and underlying chords give it a more triumphant sound. It's a song of evil having been defeated, but still not without a great cost. I hope this deepened your concepts about melody and harmony and how much impact one can have on the other. If you enjoy writing your own music, think about all the different ideas you can convey with one tune just by changing the chords you put with it. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe for more content. I'll see you next time.